Captain Lee Do-yun stared at the empty space ahead of his ship. The stars looked the same as always, but something felt different today. His crew had been flying through this part of space for 3 weeks now. They were looking for new planets that humans could live on. "Captain, I'm seeing something strange on the sensors," said Lieutenant Kim Ji-won from her seat at the front of the bridge. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel. "There's a big object out there, but it's not showing up clearly." Do-yun walked over to look at her screen. The readings made no sense. Something huge was floating in space, but their best equipment could barely see it. "How big are we talking about?" "At least 10 times bigger than our ship, maybe more," Ji-won replied. She looked worried. "Captain, it's not like anything I've ever seen before." Dr. Park Min-ha looked up from her research station. She was the smartest person on the ship when it came to old alien things. "Can we get closer? I'd like to take a look at this object." Do-yun thought for a moment. They were far from home, and if something went wrong, help would take months to arrive. But this was why they were out here, to find new things and learn about them. "Take us closer, but slowly," he told Ji-won. "And keep our weapons ready, just in case." The ship moved forward through space. As they got closer, the object became clearer on their screens. It was massive and dark, covered in strange patterns that seemed to move when no one was looking directly at them. "My God," whispered engineer Choi Yun-woo from his station. "Look at the size of that thing. It's like a floating city." Dr. Park was already working on her computer, trying to understand what they were seeing. "The metal it's made from, I've never seen anything like it. And these patterns on the surface, they look like writing, but not from any language I know." Suddenly, the object began to glow. Soft blue light spread across its surface like water. The patterns became brighter and started to move in circles around the structure. "Captain," Ji-won called out, "it's scanning us." "I can feel it looking at our ship, at us." The light grew stronger. Then, without warning, a beam of energy shot out from the object and surrounded their ship. But nothing bad happened. Instead, Do-yun felt a warm feeling in his mind, like someone was gently touching his thoughts. "Is everyone okay?" he asked his crew. They all nodded, but they looked as confused as he felt. The object was definitely alive somehow, or at least controlled by something that was alive. Dr. Park's equipment started making noise. "Captain, I'm getting readings I've never seen before. This thing is old, really old. Older than any alien technology we know about." The object suddenly sent out a powerful signal in all directions. It was so strong that every ship and space station within 100 light years would be able to hear it. "What just happened?" Do-yun asked. "It sent a message," Ji-won said, her voice shaking. "A really big message. Everyone in this part of space will know we're here now." Hours passed. The object continued to glow, and their ship stayed trapped in its energy beam. But the beam didn't hurt them. If anything, it seemed to be protecting them than their communication. System came alive with messages from far away. The first one made Do-yun's blood run cold. "Human ship, this is Empress Zilandra of the Veil 3 Empire. You have activated something that should have stayed sleeping forever. Surrender the artifact to us immediately, or we will destroy every human world." More messages came in. The Corvin Hegemony and the Nexari Collective both demanded the same thing. These were the most powerful alien nations in the galaxy, and they all seemed terrified of what Do-yun's crew had found. "Captain," Dr. Park said quietly, "I think we found something very important. These aliens are scared of it." "But we didn't do anything," Yun-woo said. "We just got close to it." "Maybe that was enough," Park replied. "Maybe it was waiting for us." As if it heard her words, the object began to change. Parts of its surface opened up, revealing chambers filled with more blue light. And in that light, they could see shapes, like rooms and corridors, as if the object was inviting them inside. "Captain, we're getting another message," Ji-won reported. "But this one is different. It's coming from the object itself." A voice filled their ship. It was calm and peaceful, and it spoke in perfect Korean. "Welcome, children of Earth. We have waited so long for you to find us. Do not fear the others who come. You are under our protection now? You are the ones we chose? The crew looked at each other in amazement. The voice continued, "Your species has something special that the others do not. You have the ability to grow and change while keeping your hearts pure. This is why we selected you long ago." Selected? US for what? Do-yeon asked out loud. To inherit what we have built, to become the guardians of this galaxy when we are gone. But first, you must prove you are ready. Outside their ship, space began to shimmer. A barrier of energy formed around their area of space, creating a wall that stretched for light years in all directions. The alien fleets that were coming to destroy them would not be able to get through. "The trial begins now," the voice said. "You must visit 12 sacred places and pass 12 tests. Only then will you understand your true purpose." Dr. Park was frantically taking notes. "Captain, this is incredible. We're talking to something that might be millions of years old." "But why us?" Do-yeon asked the voice. "Why humans?" "Because when faced with great power, most species choose to dominate others. But humans have the rare gift of choosing to help instead. This is what makes you worthy." The object began to change their ship. New technology appeared in their systems, computers more advanced than anything humans had ever built. Engines that could travel faster than light in ways no one had imagined possible. "Your journey starts now," the voice said. "Go to the first sacred place. Learn what you need to learn. And remember, the galaxy's future depends on the choices you make." As their ship powered up with its new abilities, Do-yeon looked at his crew. They were no longer just explorers. They had become something much more important. Though none of them fully understood what yet, the stars ahead looked different now. They looked like they were waiting. The alien fleets arrived 3 days later. Admiral Song Min-jae watched them from the command center on Earth's moon base. He had never seen so many warships in one place before. The Veil 3 Empire brought their golden battle cruisers, the Corvin. Hegemony showed up with their dark, spike-covered destroyers. Even the mysterious Nexari Collective sent their blue crystal ships. "How many ships are out there?" Song asked his aide. "Over 3,000, sir. Maybe more." "They're all stopped at the energy barrier that appeared around our space," Song nodded grimly. 3,000 alien warships against humanity's small fleet of maybe 200 ships. If that barrier ever came down, the war would be over in hours. On the diplomatic station near Mars, Ambassador Yoon Nari was trying to talk to the alien leaders. The conversations were not going well. "You must understand," she said to the Veil 3 Empress over the communication link. "We don't know what this artifact is any more than you do. Our people just found it by accident." Empress Zilendra's image flickered on the screen. She was tall and pale, with silver skin and eyes like ice. "Accident or not, you have awakened something that was meant to stay sleeping. Our oldest stories speak of this day. When the Inheritor's beacon lights up, it means the end of our time as rulers of the galaxy." "But surely we can work together," Yoon said. "Whatever this artifact wants, maybe we can share it." The Empress laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "You do not understand, human. The beacon only responds to one species at a time. It has chosen you, which means it has rejected all of us." Meanwhile, Captain Do-yeon and his crew were traveling through space faster than they had ever imagined possible. Their ship moved through something the ancient voice called fold space, jumping from one star system to another in minutes instead of months. Dr. Park was studying the coordinates the artifact had given them. "The first location is in the Kellner system," she told the captain. "But according to our star maps, there's nothing there except empty space and a few dead planets." "The maps might be wrong," said Lieutenant Ji-won. She was piloting their ship through fold space, and she could feel the way it bent around them. "Or maybe there's something there that doesn't show up on normal sensors." When they arrived at Kellner, they found that Ji-won was right. In the space between two dead planets, there was another ancient structure. This one was smaller than the first, but it pulsed with the same blue energy dot. As their ship got closer, the structure opened up. A voice spoke to them, not the same voice as before, but similar. "Welcome, inheritors. I am the guardian of the first trial. I have been waiting here for 8 million years for someone worthy to arrive. 8 million years? Engineer Hyunwoo whispered. This thing has been waiting here since before humans even existed. The guardian continued speaking. Your first test is simple to understand but hard to complete. You must work together to solve a problem that has no easy answer. Many species have tried this test. All of them failed because they could not trust each other when things became difficult. The structure pulled their ship inside. They found themselves in a huge chamber filled with strange machines and floating platforms. In the center was a puzzle made of light and energy. The puzzle changes based on who is trying to solve it, the Guardian explained. For humans, it will test your greatest strength, your ability to help each other even when you are afraid. The puzzle began. Holographic images appeared showing a disaster happening on a planet full of people. Earthquakes were tearing the world apart and millions needed to be saved. But the rescue ships could only save some of them. The crew had to decide who would live and who would die. This is horrible, Dr. Park said. How can we choose who deserves to be saved? Captain Do-yeon looked at the problem from every angle. Maybe that's not the right question. Maybe we need to find a way to save everyone. But the ships can't carry that many people, Jawan pointed out. Then we need more ships, Hyunwoo said. Or bigger ships, or a different way to move people. They worked for hours, trying different solutions. Every time they thought they had an answer, the puzzle became harder. More disasters happened. More impossible choices appeared. Finally, Dr. Park had an idea. What if we're thinking about this wrong? What if the test isn't about choosing who to save? What if it's about refusing to give up on anyone? She started working with the puzzle's controls, not trying to choose between the people who needed help, but looking for ways to help all of them. The others joined in, each using their skills to find new solutions. Slowly, the puzzle began to change. Instead of forcing them to make terrible choices, it started showing them new possibilities. Ways to turn the rescue ships into temporary shelters, methods to use the planet's own resources to build safety zones. Plans to evacuate people to other worlds that could support them. You have passed the first test, the Guardian said, and its voice sounded pleased. Most species fail because they accept that some suffering is necessary, but humans refuse to accept this. You always look for the solution that saves everyone, even when it seems impossible. The structure gave their ship new technology, better shields, more powerful engines, and something called a quantum communicator that could send messages instantly across any distance. As they prepared to leave for the second trial location, they received a message through the quantum communicator. It was from Admiral Song back on Earth. Captain Do-yeon, the situation here is getting worse. The alien fleets are trying to break through the barrier. They're using weapons we've never seen before. Also, we've detected human ships at other trial locations. It seems like humans all over our space are being called to these ancient sites. Dr. Park looked at the star maps. Captain, there are human ships heading to all 12 trial locations. This isn't just about us anymore. This is about all of humanity. But why? Jawan asked. Why are so many of us being called? A Guardian's voice answered her question. Because the trials cannot be completed by one ship or one crew. Each trial teaches a different lesson. Each lesson must be learned by different humans and then shared with all. You are not just taking a test, you are learning how to become the guardians of this galaxy. As their ship entered fold space again, heading for the second trial, Captain Do-yeon thought about what the Guardian had said. Humans weren't just being tested on their ability to work together as a crew. They were being tested on their ability to work together as an entire species. Behind them, the first trial site went dark, its job finished. Ahead of them, 11 more trials waited. And somewhere in space, 3,000 alien warships continued trying to break through an ancient barrier. Terrified of what humanity might become if they succeeded, the second trial location appeared on their screens. This time, it was hidden inside a nebula that had been marked as dangerous on every star chart for 1,000 years. As they flew into the colorful gas clouds, Their new sensors detected something that made them all stare and wonder. There wasn't just one ancient structure waiting for them. There were dozens of them, all connected by bridges of pure energy, forming a city floating in space. And they could see other human ships already there. The real test was just beginning. The floating city in the nebula was bigger than anything humans had ever built. Captain Doyun's ship docked next to 5 other human vessels. He recognized some of them exploration ships like his own, but also military ships and even a few civilian transports that had been caught up in whatever was calling humanity to these ancient places. Captain Beek Soyang was waiting for them at the docking bay. She commanded the research vessel Bison's Light and was known throughout human space as one of their best scientists. Her ship had arrived 2 days earlier. "Doyun!" she called out as his crew stepped off their ship. "You're not going to believe what we've found here." She led them through corridors filled with the same blue energy they had seen before. But here, the energy seemed alive, moving in patterns that almost looked like writing. "The structures are teaching us," Beek explained as they walked. "Not with words, but by putting knowledge directly into our minds. My physicist, Dr. Shin Unji, has been studying how it works. The energy connects to our brains and shows us things we never imagined possible." They entered a large chamber where dozens of humans were working with floating screens made of light. Some were learning about advanced engineering. Others were discovering new ways to travel through space. A few were practicing something that looked like magic, but was actually a form of mental power that the ancient structures were helping them develop. "This is incredible," Dr. Park whispered. "It's like a school, but one designed by beings far more advanced than us." Colonel Ru Tae-hoon walked over to greet them. He was a Marine who had been leading security teams through the more dangerous parts of the floating city. "Captain Do-yun, we've found something you need to see, but it's not pleasant." He led them to another chamber, this one darker than the others. In the center was a holographic display showing the history of the galaxy. They watched as different alien species rose to power, built great empires, then fell apart or destroyed themselves. "The ancient beings who built this place recorded everything," Ru explained. "Every species that ever became powerful in this galaxy. And look what happened to all of them." The display showed the Veilfree Empire in its early days, when they were explorers and scientists. But as they grew stronger, they became conquerors. The Corvins started as a peaceful trading people, but power turned them into warriors who lived only for battle. Even the mysterious Nexari had once been different creative artists, who became obsessed with controlling others through their technology. "They all made the same mistake," said Dr. Shin Unji, stepping out of the shadows. She had been studying the historical records for days. When they gained advanced technology, they used it to dominate instead of to help. That's why the ancient beings left. They were disappointed in how their students turned out. "But humans are different?" Lieutenant Jiwan asked. A new voice answered her. Another guardian, similar to the one they had met before. "That is what we are trying to determine. So far you show promise? But the real tests are still ahead." The guardian explained that each of the 12 trial sites was designed to teach humans a specific skill they would need as guardians of the galaxy. The first trial had taught them about cooperation. This site was teaching them about knowledge and responsibility. "Knowledge without wisdom is dangerous," the guardian said. "Many species have destroyed themselves by learning how to build powerful weapons before they learned how to live in peace. You must prove that humans can handle great power without being corrupted by it." Over the next few days, human crews from all over their space arrived at different trial sites. Each location taught them something new. Some humans learned how to heal diseases that had never been cured before. Others discovered how to create energy from nothing. A few even learned how to speak with their minds across vast distances, but with each new ability came a test of character. Humans who learned to read minds had to prove they wouldn't invade others' privacy. Those who gained the power to destroy planets had to show they would never use it except to protect innocent life. Captain Do-yun found himself learning something unexpected. The ancient structures were teaching him how to sense the emotions and intentions of other people, even aliens. It was a useful skill for a leader, but it also meant he could feel the fear and anger of the alien fleets surrounding human space. "They're terrified," he told Dr. Park as they stood looking at a display showing the space around Earth. "The aliens aren't just angry that we found these artifacts. They're scared of what we might become. Can you blame them?" Park replied. "For thousands of years, they've been the strongest species in the galaxy. Now suddenly humans are gaining powers they don't understand." Meanwhile, the alien alliance was trying everything they could to break through the barrier protecting human space. They fired their most powerful weapons at it, but the energy just bounced off. They tried to find weak spots, but the barrier covered an area larger than most star systems. Empress Silandra was growing desperate. She called a meeting of all the alien leaders, something that hadn't happened in centuries. "The humans are changing," she told the assembled leaders. "Our spies report that their ships are becoming faster and more advanced every day. Some of their people seem to be developing mental abilities that we thought were impossible." Warlord Grimtusk of the Corvins slammed his fist on the table. "Then we attack now, before they become too strong." "Attack with what?" asked the Nexari representative, a being of pure energy speaking through a crystal construct. "Our weapons cannot penetrate their barrier. And even if they could, do we really want to start a war with a species that the predecessors chose as their inheritors?" The mention of the predecessors made everyone quiet. They were the legendary beings who had built the galaxy's most ancient structures, then vanished without a trace. Most aliens thought they were just myths, but the awakening of the trial sites proved they had been real. Back at the trial sites, humans were beginning to understand the scope of what they were being prepared for. The predecessors hadn't just built the 12 trial locations. They had seeded the entire galaxy with technology and knowledge, hidden in places where only their chosen inheritors would be able to find it. Dr. Beak made a discovery that changed everything. Deep in the floating city's core, she found a message from the predecessors themselves, not just their artificial guardians, but the actual beings who had built everything. "We grew tired of watching species destroy themselves and each other," the message said. "We tried to guide them, but power corrupts all but the rarest souls. So we decided to wait, to search for a species that could grow strong without losing their compassion. A people who would use great power to protect rather than to conquer." The message continued. "We found you, humans of Earth, when you were still living in caves and learning to make fire. We saw in your minds something special, the ability to look at a stranger and see not an enemy, but a potential friend. Most species lose this ability as they become more advanced. You have kept it. But this is just the beginning," the message warned. "The trials will teach you much, but the real test comes after. When you have the power to rule the galaxy, will you choose instead to serve it? When you can force others to obey you, will you choose to earn their respect instead?" As Captain Do-Yun read these words, he felt a weight settle on his shoulders. Humanity wasn't just being given amazing technology and abilities. They were being prepared for a responsibility bigger than anyone had imagined. Outside the nebula, the alien fleets continued their attempts to break through the barrier. But inside the trial sites, humans were learning not just how to be powerful, but how to be worthy of power. The question was, would they pass the final tests that lay ahead? The final trial site was different from all the others. Captain Do-Yun and his crew found it hidden inside what looked like a normal asteroid. But when they got close, the rock opened up like a flower to reveal a massive library floating in space. This wasn't a library with books or computers. Instead, it was filled with crystals that held the memories and knowledge of billions of beings from across the galaxy's history. When humans touched the crystals, they could experience the lives of creatures who had died millions of years ago. "This is incredible," Dr. Park whispered as she explored the vast halls. "It's like the entire history of the galaxy is stored here." But the library held more than just history. In its deepest chambers, they found the complete records of the predecessors themselves, the beings who had created all the trial sites and chosen humanity as their inheritors. The predecessors had been much like humans, but far more advanced. They had built an empire that spanned the entire galaxy, bringing peace and prosperity to countless worlds. But as the eons passed, they faced a terrible choice. They were dying out, explained the guardian of this final site. Not from war or disease, but from transcendence. As they grew more powerful and wise, they began to exist more in the realm of pure thought than in physical reality. Eventually, they would leave this universe entirely. But they couldn't abandon the galaxy. Dr. Park realized. Someone had to take care of all the younger species. Exactly. So they searched for millions of years to find a species worthy of inheriting their role. They tested countless civilizations, but all of them failed the same test. What test? Captain Doyan asked. The Guardian showed them a crystal containing the most important memory of all. In it, they saw the predecessors' final experiment before they found humanity. They had given incredible power to a species called the Zilani, the ability to reshape matter with their minds, to travel instantly across the galaxy, to live forever if they chose. The Zilani had used these gifts well at first, healing their sick and building beautiful cities. But within a few generations, they began to see themselves as gods. They enslaved other species, reshaped entire worlds for their pleasure, and eventually destroyed themselves in a civil war over who was the most powerful. This is why we chose you, the Guardian said. Humans have a unique quality that we have found in no other species. You become stronger when you face adversity, but you also become kinder. Most species become cruel when they gain power. Humans become more protective of those who have less. As Captain Doyan absorbed this knowledge, alarms began sounding throughout the library. Lieutenant Jiwan ran to her communication station. Captain, we're receiving emergency signals from Earth. The alien fleets have found a way to weaken the barrier protecting our space. Admiral Song says they have maybe days before it fails completely. The Guardian's expression grew serious. The time for trials is over. You must choose now whether humanity is ready to accept its inheritance. We haven't finished all 12 trials, Dr. Park protested. There are still things we need to learn. The trials were never about learning everything, the Guardian replied. They were about proving that humans have the right character to handle unlimited power. You have shown courage, wisdom, and compassion. Most importantly, you have shown that you can resist the corruption that comes with great strength. The crystal library began to change around them. Knowledge flowed into their minds, not just information, but understanding. They learned how to build machines that could create entire star systems. They discovered the secrets of energy that could power civilizations for millions of years. They gained the ability to communicate with any form of life, no matter how alien, but with each new ability came a clear understanding of its proper use. The power to create star systems came with the knowledge of when such creation was needed and when it would cause harm. The unlimited energy sources included safeguards to prevent them from being used as weapons. This is our covenant with you, the Guardian explained. Unlimited power, but only for those who will use it to protect and nurture life, never to dominate or destroy. Captain Doyan felt the weight of this responsibility settling on his shoulders and the shoulders of every human in the galaxy. They were no longer just explorers or colonists. They were becoming the guardians of countless species and worlds. Engineer Hyunwoo was studying the new technology flowing into their ship systems. Captain, with these abilities we could easily defeat the alien fleets surrounding our space. We could conquer their entire empires if we wanted to. But we won't, Doyan said firmly. That's exactly the kind of thinking that destroyed the Zilani and all the others. As they prepared to leave the library, the Guardian gave them one final gift, the ability to communicate with the predecessors themselves, who still existed as beings of pure consciousness in a higher dimension. The voice that spoke to them was ancient beyond measure, but filled with warmth and hope. Children of Earth, you have exceeded our greatest expectations. In all our eons of searching, We have never found a species that remained true to their compassionate nature, even when given the power of gods. You are ready to inherit not just our technology but our purpose. What exactly does that mean? Captain Do-Yun asked. It means that the galaxy is now yours to protect. The Veilthri, the Corvin, the Nexari, and all the other species will become your responsibility. They will resist at first, as children resist the guidance of parents. But in time they will understand that you seek not to rule them, but to help them grow. The predecessor's voice grew more urgent. But beware, this galaxy is not alone in the universe. There are other galaxies where species have gained great power but not great wisdom. They see the light of our beacons and know that new guardians have been chosen. Some of them will come to test you, to see if you are truly worthy of the role you have accepted. As the library began to fade around them, the predecessor left them with final words of advice. Remember always that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when not to use that ability. You have the power to remake the galaxy, but your greatest achievement will be in teaching others to remake themselves. Captain Do-Yun and his crew returned to their ship, now transformed by technology beyond anything they had imagined possible. As they prepared to return to human space, they could see the alien fleets in the distance, still trying desperately to break through the weakening barrier. What do we do now? Lieutenant Jiwan asked. Do-Yun looked at his crew, humans who had been transformed from simple explorers into the inheritors of the galaxy's greatest civilization. The choice they made in the next few hours would determine the fate of countless worlds and species. Now we prove that the predecessors chose correctly, he said. We show the galaxy what it means to have power without the desire to abuse it. As their ship entered fold space, heading back toward the confrontation that would define humanity's future, Captain Do-Yun carried with him the hopes of a dying race of gods and the responsibility of becoming worthy of their trust. The barrier around human space was failing. Admiral Song watched from the command center as cracks of light appeared in the energy wall that had protected them for weeks. The alien fleets were pressing closer, their weapons charging for what would surely be the final battle. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving surrender demands from all three alien empires. They want us to give up the artifacts and submit to their rule, or they'll destroy every human world. Song looked at the tactical display. 3,000 alien warships against humanity's small fleet. Even with the new technology they had gained from the trial sites, the odds were overwhelming. Any word from Captain Do-Yun and the other trial crews? He asked. They're all returning, sir. But they won't arrive for another few hours. Hours they didn't have. The barrier would fail within minutes. Then something unexpected happened. Captain Kang Seo-jin, one of humanity's best pilots, opened a communication channel to the entire human fleet. All ships, this is Kang. I've been thinking about everything we've learned from those ancient sites. We have technology now that could easily destroy the alien fleets? But that's not what we're supposed to do, is it? His words spread throughout the human fleet. Pilots and captains who had been preparing for a desperate battle began to understand what he meant. We're not warriors. Kang continued. We're guardians. And guardians protect everyone, even those who threaten them. When the barrier finally collapsed, something amazing happened. Instead of attacking, the human fleet moved forward with their weapons powered down. They positioned themselves between the alien fleets and the civilian colonies, but they made no aggressive moves. Empress Zilandra was confused by this response. She had expected humans to either surrender immediately or fight desperately. This calm, protective stance was something she had never encountered before. Human fleet, she broadcast, you are outnumbered 10-1. Surrender now, and we will allow your species to continue existing under our rule. The response came not from Admiral Song, but from Captain Do-Yun, whose ship had just arrived from the final trial site. Empress Zilandra, we offer you something different. We offer you alliance, not as your subjects or your rulers, but as partners in protecting this galaxy. Protect it from what? Warlord Grimtusk of the Corvin demanded. We are the strongest powers in this galaxy. What could threaten us that we cannot handle ourselves? Captain Doyun's ship moved closer to the alien fleets. As it did, other human vessels from the trial sites began arriving, each one glowing with the same blue energy that had marked the ancient artifacts. "Let us show you," Doyun said. "What happened next changed everything." Instead of displaying their new weapons, the humans began sharing the knowledge they had gained from the predecessors. Through their advanced communication systems, they transmitted images and information directly to the alien fleets. The aliens saw the true history of their galaxy, how the predecessors had guided countless species only to watch them destroy themselves with the very power that was meant to help them grow. They saw the fate of the Zilani and dozens of other civilizations that had chosen conquest over cooperation. More importantly, they saw what was coming from beyond their galaxy. The predecessor knowledge included warnings about other galactic civilizations that had failed their own trials and had become forces of pure destruction, consuming everything in their path. "The barriers between galaxies are weakening," Dr. Park explained through the communication link. "Within a generation, maybe less, those corrupted civilizations will reach us. When they do, every species in our galaxy will need to work together to survive." Empress Zilandra was silent for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. "You are asking us to believe that you, a species we have always considered primitive, are now our protectors?" "Not your protectors," Captain Doyun replied. "Your partners. The predecessors didn't choose humans to rule over other species. They chose us to help other species reach their full potential." To prove this point, the humans began sharing their new technology freely. Advanced medical knowledge went to Val-3 hospitals. Improved engineering techniques were transmitted to Corvin shipbuilders. Even the mysterious Nexari received new understandings of energy manipulation that enhanced their crystalline technology. "This is impossible," Warlord Grimtusk muttered. "No species gives away such advantages freely." "That's exactly why the predecessors chose us," said Ambassador Yun from her diplomatic ship. "Most species see advanced technology as a way to gain power over others. Humans see it as a way to help others gain power over their own problems." Slowly, the alien fleets began to power down their weapons. Not all of them. Some ships remained ready for battle, their crews still suspicious of human motives. But many of the alien commanders were beginning to understand that humanity truly was offering partnership rather than domination. The real test came when Pilot Kang demonstrated humanity's new defensive capabilities. With a thought, he created an energy shield around one of the alien ships that was being threatened by raiders from outside the galaxy. The shield was stronger than anything the aliens had ever seen, but Kong made it clear that it was there to protect, not to imprison. "We could have used this power to conquer you," he explained. "Instead, we use it to keep you safe." Over the following days, more and more alien ships joined what was becoming known as the Galactic Council. Representatives from dozens of species came to see what humans were offering. Many were skeptical at first, but the evidence was overwhelming. Humans were healing diseases that had plagued alien worlds for centuries. They were sharing technology that improved quality of life without creating new weapons. Most importantly, they were teaching other species how to work together instead of constantly competing for dominance. Dr. Shin, who had been studying the psychological effects of the predecessor technology, made an important discovery. "The ancient knowledge doesn't just give us new abilities," she reported. "It changes how we think about power itself. Instead of wanting to use our strength to control others, we want to use it to help others become strong too." This was the key difference that the predecessors had been looking for. Other species saw power as a limited resource. If someone else had it, that meant less for them. Humans instinctively understood that true power grew when it was shared, not when it was hoarded. The transformation of the galaxy didn't happen overnight. There were still conflicts, still species that refused to join the council, still those who tried to use the new technologies for selfish purposes. But for the first time in millions of years, the galaxy had a guiding force that sought to unite rather than divide. Captain Doyan found himself appointed as the first human representative to the Galactic Council, not because he had demanded the position, but because both humans and aliens recognized his wisdom and fairness. His first act was to establish the predecessor archives, repositories of ancient knowledge that any species could access, as long as they agreed to use what they learned responsibly. As he stood in the council chambers, looking out at representatives from hundreds of worlds, Do-Yun remembered the words of the predecessor who had spoken to him in the Crystal Library. Your greatest achievement will be in teaching others to remake themselves. That was exactly what was happening. The Veilfree were rediscovering their love of science and exploration. The Corvin were channeling their warrior spirit into protecting weaker species rather than conquering them. Even the Nexari were using their advanced technology to create beautiful works of art instead of tools of control, but the real test was yet to come. Long-range sensors had detected the approach of ships from the Andromeda Galaxy vessels belonging to a civilization that had failed its own trials and had spent millennia conquering other galaxies. They'll be here within a year, reported Lieutenant Jiwan, now serving as the Council's chief navigator. And they're bringing a fleet larger than anything we've ever imagined? Captain Do-Yun nodded calmly. A year ago, such news would have terrified him. Now, surrounded by allies from dozens of species, all working together and sharing their strengths, he felt something different. He felt ready. Then we have a year to prepare, he said. Not as separate species fighting for survival, but as one galactic community protecting our home. As the Council began planning their defense, messages arrived from other galaxies, distant civilizations, that had heard about humanity's success and wanted to learn from their example. The predecessor's plan was working on a scale even larger, and they had imagined the ancient gods had chosen well. Humanity had proven worthy not just of inheriting great power, but of teaching others how to use power wisely. The galaxy's future had never looked brighter.